We're going through the third chapter of Gittin. We're learning practical issues about how you write a get and how you deliver a get. But we're also learning some general principles about, for example, agency, who's included in agency. And today we're just going to see some general principles about presumptions and assumptions. To what extent can we assume, for example, that an individual is alive? If the agent has his authority from the person that appointed him, the principal, if the agent has authority from the principal, well, how do we know that the principal is still there and therefore the agency is still in place? And that's really the question that the third Mishnah of the third chapter wants to get into. Maybe get the avad mimenu. Well, before we get that, just before we get that there, let's see whether the agency can be destroyed by losing the document. Hamevi get ve'avad mimenu. Someone who brings a get and loses it, or it gets lost. So we are an agent, we're delivering this get, but we don't have it anymore. And if we find it, by the way, well, how do we demonstrate that it's the right document? Because, well, remember that the agent may not be able to read, and he's going to have to certify when he gets to the Beit Din in Jerusalem or in the land of Israel that "B'fanai nichtav u'fanai nichtam." In my presence it was written, and in my presence it was sealed. Well, if we've lost it and found it, can we still make that declaration? How do we know it's the same get? It's just a piece of paper. If we are illiterate, we can't tell. So this is the question that the Mishnah is going to begin with. And of course, we are getting into areas of assumptions. Can we assume it's the same document? Hameri get ve'avad mimenu. So someone brings a get, he loses it. Al atar. If he finds it straight away, kasher. If he finds it straight away, it's still valid. Ve'im lav pasul. If he doesn't find it straight away, it's not valid anymore. How do we know it's the same document? I translate, he founds it in a chafisa. A chafisa I've translated here as a small bag, but it's more like a briefcase. It's a valise. It's a traveling document box. So he finds it in his briefcase. Or begloskama, a gloskama, he finds it in a gloskama. A gloskama is a Greek word which seems to mean something like a chest or a trunk or a box. It's a traveling box. We'd say trunk in English, but that's not the trunk. Maybe that's the origin of the expression trunk of a car in American English. It's some box you travel around with. So he's found it in his chest. So that's in both cases, both the valise and the chest. It suggests that he packed it away to travel with it. So we can assume it's the right document. If he recognizes it, it's valid. So we're going to go with it in this case. Someone who brings a get, and the person that gave it to him was an old man or a sick man. Not nola shehu kayam. He should deliver it to her. So he does deliver the get on the presumption that this man is still alive, even if he was ill or old when he handed over the get. We assume he's alive if we don't have any other evidence, just as I guess we assume that this get is the right get when we find it in our briefcase or in our traveling things. So what does it mean? So we presume that he's alive, and this presumption that people are still alive extends to other situations. So for example, Bat Yisrael sheniseit la Kohen, so a daughter of an ordinary Israelite that married a Kohen, of course, she can eat truma, right? Now that she's married to a Kohen, she can eat truma. So she's married to the Kohen, vehalach, and her husband has just gone abroad. Well, she can still eat truma when her husband goes abroad, right? And people may still bring it to her. Or she can buy it in the market at a lower cost than the price of ordinary food. because truma will always trade at a lower cost because few people can eat it. So husband's gone abroad. Ochelet bi truma b'cheskat shehu kayam. She can carry on eating truma because she presumes that he's still alive. Let's keep going. Hasholeh chatato min medinat hayam. Someone sends a sin offering from abroad. This will be a sin offering that doesn't require laying of hands. So he sent it from abroad to be sacrificed in Jerusalem. We're going to sacrifice it on the presumption that he's alive. We can't, the sacrifice has to come, if it's a chatat, it has to come from someone who's living. So it's invalid to be brought on the altar if he's not alive. It doesn't have any significance anymore if it's a sin offering. He has no sins, he's dead. But we are going to bring it on the assumption that he's alive. Makrivin ota b'cheskat shehu kayam. We're going to bring it on the assumption that he's alive. And we can make these assumptions in more contentious situations. So we learn Shlosha Dvarim. Amar Rabbi Ezer ben Parta lifnei Chachamim. So 3 statements were made by Rabbi Elazar ben Parta before the sages. So now we're gonna divert a little bit, but we're still in the world of presumption, and we've already said, by the way, that the Mishnah of Gittin, I would suggest that only a third of the Mishnah of Gittin is actually related to Gittin, is actually related to divorce, and we very, very often disappear off into other areas. So 3 statements were made by Rabbi Elazar ben Parta before the sages. Ve'kimu et dvarav, and they upheld his words. Same word, kimu, by the way. They upheld. They, were making the assumption that this person is alive. The assumption that they are alive is b'cheskat kayamin. We assume that they're standing, and the sages kiyamu et dvarav. It's a verbal echo. They upheld his words. They assumed that his words were correct, or at least they took them as correct. So what are these 3 statements he made? Well, Ir shehi kufa karkom. There's a city that has been surrounded by a karkom. It's another Greek. I think it might be a Latin word actually. It's a surrounding army. Ve'al hasfina hamitarefet bayam, and about a ship tossed about at sea. Ve'al hayotzel adon, and someone who's been brought to court. And this, by the way, is brought to court in a capital case. Well, that'll be obvious when we see the end of the Mishnah, why this has to be a capital case. So these three situations, the city under siege, the ship that's been tossed about, and the person that's just walked into court, shehen b'cheskat kayamin. They are presumed to be alive. They are presumed to be still alive. And that, of course, has halachic implications. For example, for the get that they write, or for eating truma. We'll see in a minute that the classic test case that the Mishnah is going to bring is eating truma, because, of course, if the husband is dead, if the priestly husband is dead, she can't eat truma. But Rabbi Elazar ben Parta is going to carry on a sec. Aval ir shekafsha karkom, a besieged town which has been captured. Usfina she'avdavayam, a ship that's been lost at sea. V'ahayotzeh lehareg, and someone who's been condemned and therefore has gone out to be executed. The Gemara argues whether this is a Gentile court or a Jewish court. We're not sure, but the principle is clear. He's gone out to be executed. Notnim alehen chumrei chayim v'chumrei metim. We put on them all the stringencies of being alive and all the stringencies of their being dead. So we don't assume, we do not assume that they're dead. But we cannot completely assume that they're alive. So in that case, of course, we can't accept the get. But the Mishnah is going to make it clear what this means. Bat Yisrael la Kohen, a daughter of Israel who married a Kohen, so she can eat truma as long as her husband is alive. Uvat Kohen the Yisrael, a daughter of a Kohen who's married to a Yisrael. Well, she can eat if she hasn't had children. She can eat truma as long as her husband is dead. Okay, a bat kohen before she's married and after she's married can eat truma. Bat Yisrael can only eat truma when married to a kohen. So Bat Yisrael, Jewish, ordinary Israelite to a kohen, daughter of a kohen to an Israelite. In both cases, lo tuchal bit truma. In neither case can they eat truma. The first one can't eat truma because her husband might be dead, and the second can't eat truma because her husband, her Israelite husband, might be alive.